What's up, Wise Take? Welcome to another edition of the NFL podcast. I am your host, Patio Joe, and I'm joined here once again by my boy Matt. Week 11. What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Feeling much better than I was last week, so that's definitely a plus. I am ready for a better weekend than last weekend, but how'd you do?
I did quite well on my cash teams. It was they were in the top like 5 or 10% of all the cash games. I hit it on Kyler Murray, Christian Kirk was the combo that I had. I also had um, Christian McCaffrey was in my lineup. I paid all the way down to Kalen Ballage. I had Michael Thomas. Ballage didn't, everybody was criticizing what Ballage did. He didn't get me a zero, and he was affording me to get to CMAX. So basically, that's how it worked. And I probably also cashed because Barkley just was like 65% owned in cash games on FanDuel, and he busted. So if you had CMAC and he got 22, you were going to go ahead of all them. So
I kind of got screwed with McCaffrey not scoring that final play. If he would have scored, I would have cashed, and it'd just be a completely different story. But you know how it goes. I think I missed cashing by less than a point. So
yeah, I liked it because I'm predominantly cash games, but last week there was, I think I counted at least in one of my cash games there was 18 duplicate lineups of the same, and like well-known DFS pros all having the same lineup, 18 of them in a 100-man single entry 50-50. So, and I like it because I came above them all. It's like I beat the train, and I loved it when you can beat the train. It's like easy cash that way. So, it's frustrating. That's one of the most frustrating are those trains that they have. People just, they say that they're not sharing lineups, and basically maybe it's an optimizer, but like, man, they're just so like well-known guys in the industry all have the same crazy.
it makes no sense, but I'm not gonna even comment on that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm doing well. Cash games are doing well. Let me ask you a question before we get into this slate, which is a good slate. I think we have one more game this week than last week. Um, MVP discussion. MVP. What am I doing? Okay. So, anyways, I yeah, it's kind of crazy. All these messages are coming up. Anyways, MVP discussion. Last Monday night, Russell Wilson wins the game. Twitter goes ablaze. MVP Russ. Evan Silva goes MVP Russ, and I don't normally get into it with these quote unquote experts or people that are just really well respected in the industry, but it's like all of them are just like giving it to Russell Wilson. And I mean, what is your thoughts on that? Because I feel like Lamar Jackson deserves to be right up there in the conversation, if not ahead of him, because he beat Wilson in Seattle and he also beat Brady at home in the undefeated season. So he did exactly what Wilson did the week before. But for some reason, Russell Wilson is the odds-on favorite. What's your opinion on that?
I mean, it's funny you say Lamar Jackson because I have his game logs up right now. And I mean, they're pretty ridiculous. He's thrown the ball over 40 times once. He's only thrown it over 30 times, 4 times all year. And his efficiency is insane. And he's a dual threat. I mean, his rushing floor, saying just how good he is on the ground. Every single game, he's probably going to give you about 50 yards on the ground, and you have to account for that. And then they just bull rush you up the middle with Ingram, and he's just on another level right now. I
Mm-hmm.
think he's ahead of Wilson.
That's what I think too. I feel like that the media and in some for some reason people also think like MVP is like a career award when it's not. It's like, oh, because he didn't get it in 2017, he should get it now. No. Most valuable player this year is what you look at. Moving on to another topic. I happened to finally get the craze of um, the Popeyes chicken sandwich. I got there like right when it opened, and there wasn't a line, and I got in there and I got the spicy chicken sandwich, and I had it today. And like to me, it's nothing different than the Chick-fil-A spicy sandwich. It's the same thing to me. It doesn't taste any better or worse. It's pretty much the same. Like I'm not saying it's bad. I just don't understand why people were waiting hours on end and people were getting in arguments and fights and violence left and right. It's just crazy to me. Have you tried the chicken sandwich yet?
No, so it's actually really funny that you mentioned that too, because today I got back to my office during lunch and somebody went out and brought 20 of them back. And it was pretty funny because towards the end of the day, I was walking over towards the kitchen and I just see like two or three of them sitting there on the counter. And I'm just thinking to myself, wow, these three chicken sandwiches are starting to get really cold. And there's people across the country literally murdering each other trying to just get one of them to get a bite. But I didn't try it yet. So how was it?
I mean, have you had the Chick-fil-A spicy chicken sandwich where it's
Yeah.
basically this? It's basically the same thing as that. It's basically a spicy chicken, breaded spicy chicken, and it's got the pickles and it's got two pieces of bread, and it has like some sort of sauce, but I don't know. I feel like for some reason pickles and chicken and bread it works, so I like it, and then the spicy it's good, but I just don't feel like it's any better than anything else, and it's nowhere near as good as like the really good like Nashville hot chicken sandwich places that are popping up everywhere now, left and right. I mean, it's a good sandwich. I'm just not gonna sit and wait in line an hour to get it. I'll just go to Chick-fil-A and get it in 10 minutes or something like that. It's just not worth it. So
Literally.
yeah,
Chick-fil-A's service is the best. They come out with their little iPads while you're waiting in the
no,
line and
I know,
literally have your food by like before you get to the window. It's incredible.
I know. It'd be great. Like in like 10 years, they do that, and they have like some girl gives you like a hand job while you're waiting. It'd be perfect. You know what I mean? That'd be like heaven on earth. You know what I mean? Like, take
Have
your order.
Chick-fil-A's in California. You need to move to Florida, man.
All right, so let's get into this slate. All right, we got nice. There's 11 games, right? Three,
I
six,
think
eight,
so.
yeah, there's 11 games. Where do you think the public's going to be going? Because I think it's going to be fairly spread out. There's not like one game like last week everybody's going to go to. But what do you think?
I think it's going to be pretty spread out. I mean, first thing that comes to mind is the Baltimore Houston game, just because of the publicity that it's getting already, without the fantasy implications. But I think that both quarterbacks are going to go off. I think it's going to be like remember a couple seasons ago before Deshaun Watson tore his ACL when they went into Seattle and there was just like this giant shit show shootout. Just that's what I imagine for this game. So um, we'll see what happens, but I, I I think people are definitely going to go there. I think people are going to obviously go towards, especially on DraftKings. Kyle Allen is pretty cheap, and that game is expected to have some scoring in it. So I don't know. I mean, last week was really weird with the Saints game. I mean, that killed me. I did a 21-point teaser, which apparently is a thing. And it was like everything was a lock, and somehow the Saints at +7 don't cover.
Mm. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I think Houston Baltimore is going to be a really really popular game. I could see that game doing exactly what you're saying, but I could also there's a part of me that feels like I could feel it being like a bust too. Like both teams kind of like it's just not as good. Other good games, I think Atlanta, Carolina, New Orleans, Tampa Bay. I think is going to be. I think New Orleans is good for like a rebound, and then the game that I think is going to be obviously one of my when we get to the gambling part. A game that I think is going to shoot out more New England and Philly. I think that game is going to be above the 44 that it's at. And I think they're both coming off of buys. So I think it's going to be some fireworks in Philly on Sunday. That being said, let's get right into it. Quarterbacks, Matt, where are you going up top? Maybe for cash games, and then maybe like anywhere in the mid tier. You know, you brought up Kyle Allen and stuff like that. So why don't you talk about that and who you like up top?
So last week, I'm usually a pay down at quarterback guy on DraftKings in my cash game. So last week, naturally, I went with Tannehill, and it worked out. There was just some other plays in there that didn't, but like his receiver AJ Brown, um, but that's definitely somebody I'm looking at, especially since he's the sites that I look at for ownership projections. He's up there towards the top, so he's somebody that I'm looking at in cash. Obviously, if I'm gonna pay up, I'm probably gonna go all the way up to Lamar Jackson, or I might even stop at 6,100 at Derek Carr. Um, Cincinnati is just trying to get that number one pick at this point. Their backup Andy Dalton Jr. just a worse version of Andy Dalton. So um, Derek Carr I like, and I think Josh Allen is interesting against the Dolphins. And then Deshaun Watson's not really getting enough love. I mean, he's got the same upside that Lamar Jackson does. So, in at least in tournaments, I'm definitely going to be looking there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know if you've seen this just happen right now in the Cleveland Pittsburgh game. Myles Garrett ripped off the helmet of Mason Rudolph, and then Myles Garrett takes Rudolph's helmet and bashes his head with it on Twitter. I mean, literally, me saying that is like crazy for me to even say that. But Myles Garrett literally takes Rudolph's helmet in the head.
Wait,
Yeah, it just happened too. It's crazy what's going on there. Like what I'm seeing, Myles Garrett should never play football this season again for sure.
yeah,
It's amazing what's happening there. But anyways,
that's what dude playing for the Browns will do.
yeah, Cam. So you know, cash games this week. I've really tried to stay fast to. I want that rushing quarterback with the good floor with the rushing yards on FanDuel and such. Last week, Kyler Murray was a great pivot off of the top option. Um, this this week, Lamar Jackson's up top at 8,800, and I think it's going to come down to, there's three guys that are like up at the top that you're going to want. If you in a perfect world, you're going to want C-Mac, you're going to want Michael Thomas, you're going to want Lamar Jackson. Well, you can't have all three. Not right now. I just don't think there's value that's going to open up. There might, but so got to look for things down below. Like to me, Drew Brees, I like it. I think he's in a great bounce back spot. He eats up zone defenses. I'm loving that. Deshaun Watson, a little bit less. I feel like if I'm going to go in that game, I'm just going to go with Deshaun because he gets down. He can provide the same type of rushing floor as Lamar and stuff like that. So, and I think he's a better passer overall. So there's that. All the other guys, I think you fade pretty easily. I mean, Dak is fine too, and I think he'll go a little bit under own. Jimmy G has just been inconsistent, and yes, he has a great matchup, but I don't know if you really want to roll with that. Josh Allen, I think, might become a sort of a safer pick going up against Miami. He has that rushing floor. He scored a rushing touchdown in like his last 3 games. The problem is though, man, if he doesn't like get that rushing touchdown, he's not going to get you what you want. And that's what scares me with him. Like he has not been very accurate like this entire season. He hasn't thrown a lot of picks, but hasn't really, he's been very safe. So I feel like this week, I feel like you kind of like make your lineup and then see where quarterback fits in at this point. Because you could go down to like a Derek Carr. I think he's safe at 7,400 against the Bengals. You're going to want something of that Raiders offense against the Bengals. It's just don't want how many pieces of cash. And then I'm with you with Kyle Allen. He's got a good matchup against Atlanta. I just like I said, I think if you're playing C-Mac in cash, you're not going to really want Kyle Allen. So I like Kyle Allen as a GPP guy for sure. Any other quarterbacks you want to talk about?
Yeah, there's probably a guy that I should mention as a pivot off of Allen in tournaments. We talked about the Eagles Patriots game potentially shooting out. Carson Wentz is only 5,400, so he's only $100 more than Kyle Allen. Um, it's a really long shot. I mean, they're way more focused on the run game, but New England will probably game plan for that, and they'll definitely make Carson Wentz beat them. So I think he's going to throw a lot more times than he normally has to, and I think that could lead to probably a 300 yard game and maybe a couple touchdowns. So I mean, you'll be happy with that at 5,400.
Yeah, on FanDuel, he's 7K. He's below Kyle Allen on FanDuel. So he's a really decent price, for the upside that he provides tomorrow. So let's moving on to running back. Obviously, it's going to be the question is going to be: can you get in C-Mac again?
I mean,
I think you can.
Ryan Hill kind of makes it easy on DraftKings because he's only 4,800, and Carolina has the worst run D in the league. I think they're dead last in DVOA. So um, he's only 4,800. I love it when this happens because it makes making the cash game lineup way easier. That's two free squares that I can just put off to the side, right? I'm gonna put in Hill, and then right on the other side I'll play McCaffrey. Normally I wouldn't like doing that. I'm playing running backs going up against each other, but in cash, in tournaments, it's totally okay. But in cash, this since it's okay just because of the value that Hill brings with probably 20 touches for 4,800. Like you can sign me up.
Who else do you like up top?
Um, Josh Jacobs, obviously, if he's good to go. Kamara, definitely have some interest in him. I mean, Ballage on Miami or Balaj, however you say his name, he's definitely interesting to me because he's only 4,300. So he's like a little pivot off of Hill in tournaments. So that's something that I like to do in my strategy. So I'll load up on Hill in my cash game lineup and then do some tournament lineups with him in it, but then make one where I pivot off of him because I know he's going to be the most popular running back on the slate. So I'd move to somebody like Balaj because I think at 4,300 he could definitely run on Buffalo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Buffalo has been really bad lately against the run. So I think that Balaj, as bad as he was last week, on FanDuel, he's still only 5,300. So I'm with you as a good pivot. I even think in some ways, if you wanted to play him in cash, I think you could just because he's there's nobody else and the matchup, they're at home too. So you feel like there's going to be a little bit more opportunity run at home. So to me, I'm with you though. Brian Hill, he's probably going to be in the four. It's just going to be like he's the Jalen Samuels of 2 weeks ago or such. Just the guy that you lock in your cash games, you move on because he's that value piece that you need. Anybody else up top that you're looking at? I mean, you said you like Jacobs, but like Cook and Zeke are in Zeke's in an amazing spot too. Cook is in an amazing spot. I just think Zeke, all year he hasn't done at 8,400. He's gone 3x 0 times all year at 8,400. So, what's your thoughts on Zeke and Cook?
So Hook, a little bit of a tougher sell, but for tournaments, I mean, what his upside is. So
Mm-hmm.
never have to try and argue playing him in tournaments. Um, Zeke, I mean, for you kind of want to play him in cash too, don't you? What's he priced at on FanDuel?
He's 8,400.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, I would play all three of those guys probably.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love Zeke. There's two other guys that I'm looking at on DraftKings that aren't necessarily higher up, They're definitely lower price guys or mid range guys. First, I'll go up a little bit. Leonard Fournette. Um, just haven't really heard his name in a while because he played in that London game and then they had a bye week. I think people will kind of forget about him, and he's still Leonard Fournette. He's their bell cow. I mean, I imagine they don't want Nick Foles to throw the ball a ton in his first game back. They'll definitely give it to him a little bit more. Plus, Nick Foles check it down a little bit, so see a couple extra receptions for him. So I kind of like him there. Two other guys I'm looking at, Devin Singletary. I know he's 6,000. This is the hunch. Went to FAU. The game's in Miami. I'm sure he's gonna have some people there. Just a side note that people probably aren't thinking about. So there's that, and then James White. Eagles are not very good at covering running backs that can catch the ball, and that's pretty much what it is. He's not really going to run it. The only thing that concerns me there is Burkhead, but if I'm making a bunch of tournament lineups, especially if I'm making ones where I have one where I have Wentz at quarterback, I'm going to want to correlate it with somebody like James White. Now, here's the one thing to think about when it comes to that Eagles offense. Alshon Jeffrey is probably not going to play. He hasn't really practiced this week, so um, their wide receivers that are available aren't really the best group of guys that you'd see on paper. So they obviously have the two tight ends, and that's probably where they'll go with most of their passes. But I still think he can get you there in tournaments, and I'd love running it back with somebody like James White or, I mean, really anyone that can catch the ball in New England.
Yeah, looking at this list of running backs going into Sunday, you got the guys up top everybody like, and then you brought up Fournette, but Singletary I like. I feel like he's very viable going against Miami. But there's not that many running backs this week. I feel like the pool isn't as big as it could be. Like there's not like that a really really low guy. I mean, we have, like I said, we talked about Hill and Balaj, but they're not like the 4,500 almost min price guy that you could play. So there's not a whole bunch of guys like that. I felt like last week there's a whole bunch of other guys. I think another guy we have to look at, I don't know you could play him in cash, but he's definitely GP viable, is Tevin Coleman. With Matt Breida not playing, he's going to maybe have a little bit more increased workload. I think if you wanted to throw, if you were doing a ton of lineups, Mostert, it for some reason, Brian, what's his name? Kyle Shanahan wants to have two running backs. He wants to do a split running back. So Mostert's the guy going to be getting the extra carries. Going to be 2% owned. If you're, especially, DraftKings or FanDuel is really really cheap. You're doing 150 lineups. Throw him in a couple because we know that that offense could do like two or three. He could have like 5 carries but break like 80 or 100 yards in a touchdown or something just because they have those big long runs. So, but that's about it. I like Fournette. He's got a an okay matchup on the road against Indy, but I feel like the volume will be there. Singletary, I'm with it. And, obviously we already talked about Hill, and McCaffrey is still the play that you're going to want to fit into your cash games. Moving on to receiver, I think Michael Thomas, once again, you want to try and fit him into your cash games. He's 14 catches away from 100 already, and it's only week 11. So they might try and get that on Sunday. I feel like if you're going to have one piece of the Saints offense in cash, got to be Michael Thomas. To me, Michael Thomas is just another. He was 86 or 8,700 last week, and we fit him in with McCaffrey being 10.5. $300 more is not that big of a deal. To me, it's Thomas. Lock him in.
What's he at on FanDuel?
He's 9K.
Have you seen what he is on DraftKings?
No, what is he on DraftKings?
He's 9,900.
Oh wow, that's a lot.
So that kind of makes it tricky. I mean, you're probably gonna have to pick between him and I guess Zeke, because I mean you have to take McCaffrey over Thomas for $600 more. I mean, what he needs 11 catches. You said how many?
14.
14. Yeah, dude. They're definitely gonna fucking pepper him. And who the hell on Tampa Bay isn't gonna?
Yeah, I know. I mean, Christian Kirk just whipped them up.
That's gonna be so hard, man. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm probably gonna like hedge it. I'm gonna probably play McCaffrey and Hill on both sites, and then on one I'll play Zeke, and on the other one I'll play probably on FanDuel I'll play Thomas.
Hmm. Who else do you like a receiver up top? Is there anybody you might not be able to afford much up top? I mean, do you like any of these Tampa receivers in New Orleans? Godwin's got they played. So I also think that Julio Jones on FanDuel, he's below. Especially James Bradbury. Julio is just set up for a huge day, and that game is becoming more of a shootout, more of a game stack type of game if that happens. Because not only are you going to want Julio, we already talked about Hill and McCaffrey, but me, I feel like the most talked about and safest play on the board this week is DJ Moore. On FanDuel, he's 6K. I think he's going to be very popular in cash games. I normally don't like to play the receiver and the running back for the same team, but they're in such good spots. DJ Moore lately has just been so involved, getting 11, 10, 9, and 10 targets his last 4 weeks, averaging almost 100 yards a game. So he's pretty safe. If he gets in the end zone, that's the only thing. He just hasn't gotten in the end zone. If he does, it's really going to pay off. I feel like DJ Moore is going to be one of the highest owned receivers on the slate. I also feel like Tyrell Williams is going to garner a lot of attention. He's 6,200. Feel like the build is going to be pay up at one wide receiver, try and find two guys below 6,500 on FanDuel to fit in at that position in cash. So to me, I feel like also the easy fade of the week is Christian Kirk. Everybody fade him. Do not. I don't think I am like, wow. You don't have to at all. If he goes off, I'll be surprised. Last time, weeks ago, he played the same defense, and I think he got like 2 catches for 6 yards. So don't go chasing points on what he did last week. Another guy I like also, he's really safe, and I feel like he's going to be safe again this week. Is John Brown, 5,900. Good option against this bad Miami secondary. All those, Cole Beasley too. I think is a matchup also for cash, and also Deebo Samuel. I like too. So throwing it to you, Matt. Who you liking? Anybody else I didn't talk about? Somebody else?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really focused on that Atlanta game. The guys that you mentioned, Moore, Samuel, Julio, but I'm really kind of looking at Ridley. I mean, he's due for one of those games where he just comes out of nowhere and ruins like everybody's chances of winning, other than the people that play him. And then that other guy, Russell Gage, is only 3,300 on DraftKings, and with Hooper being hurt, Hooper's not playing, right?
No, Hooper is out.
Yeah, he's not playing. So Gage, Ridley, the running back, there's going to be extra looks going around. So I definitely have a lot of interest in that offense. I also have interest in somebody that I don't think is really going to get a lot of ownership. Obviously, I'm just pretty interested in this game in general, but if the Ravens game is going to shoot out, I think obviously DeAndre Hopkins is going to have to be pretty heavily involved. He's kind of expensive. He's 8,100, but matchup obviously isn't great. The Ravens secondary is so much better with Marcus Peters, but I think the game has possibility of shooting out, and if that happens, he's gonna play a big part in that. So I definitely like throwing him in there as a same upside as Michael Thomas at an $1,800 discount. So that's definitely something to think about. Edelman, I know he's 7,600, but the Eagles defense is not really good at covering anyone. I know that Edelman will probably just tear them up, so that's definitely something that I'd look at. And then another guy, kind of like deeper down, but D.D. Westbrook, he's only 4,500. If you think back to week one,
Mhm.
everyone was all over him because of his connection with Nick Foles.
Oh yeah, they were fucking.
Yeah, they literally were fucking. So, and they didn't stop fucking just because he got hurt, you know. That still continued, and that connection I think is still going to continue. So you got that connection at probably like 3 to 5% ownership, whereas in week one I think he was like over 40% owned. So on DraftKings at least. So definitely something to look at as like a little under the radar type play. And then a cheap guy that I'm looking at that I might even consider using in cash is Hunter Renfro because he's only 4,000 on DK. And um, that's really about it. Debo Samuel as well. He's only 4,000 too.
Yeah, Debo's got a good matchup.
Very good matchup.
Yeah, let's move on to tight end, where it's literally a shit show. I mean, I have never seen a week where, to me, I feel like there's two guys you can play in cash, maybe three, but there's two. Like to me, Waller is like guy you're probably gonna pay for, because Kittle's hurt, he ain't gonna pay. I'm not paying 6,900 for Mark Andrews. I don't care what he did last week. Like that was against the worst team in the league. The other games, he has done shit up until like weeks 1 and 2. So Waller to me is like pretty safe. I think Jared Cook is a decent like kind of pivot off of that, but wouldn't necessarily throw him all in. I mean, he's 6K. He's facing a team that's pretty decent, gives up against a tight end. So I feel like it's either, to me, it's going to be Waller, Jared Cook in cash, because last week he had 10 targets, 6 receptions, 74 yards. This week, you got to think, the route tree, it's going to go Thomas, Kamara, and Cook. That's how it was in the first game, last week. So I feel like that's how it's going to go, but once again, if you're having Thomas, your cash games, you're not going to really want to go with Jared Cook also. So to me, I feel like it's Darren Waller is probably the best option. I don't know about Witten. I guess you could talk about Witten. I just, I don't think you can ever not play Witten and be hurt, so these days. So what are you thinking about tight end? Anybody else you looking at? Like to me, I feel like it's just nobody like that's safe down below that I would even consider throwing something on. I mean, maybe Greg Olsen at 5,100. He seems to be in line, but once again, we're going back to that Carolina Atlanta game. So, what are you looking at?
So, I mean, Zach Ertz is still only 5,000. I know they're playing the Patriots, but like I mentioned before, Alshon Jeffrey's probably not going to play. So if that's the case, I like him even more. I mean, the Patriots will obviously try and focus in on that too, but I think they'll be more focused on trying to stop the run and just kind of see what happens and let Wentz beat them and trust their safeties. But I like Ertz at 5,000. I think that's a pretty good price. I'm still interested in the tight end on Miami. No, he didn't really have a good game last week when everybody was on him, but we'll definitely turn some people off of him this week. He's not going away. I mean, nobody else came into the picture. He's still really the only options available for Fitzpatrick. I don't expect them to be winning, so I think they're going to be throwing. He had 6 targets last week. He's only 3,500 here. I'm pretty sure he's like 51 or 5,300 on FanDuel. Definitely somebody to consider. Um, and then Eric Ebron, just because there's just nobody on Indianapolis that can catch the ball. So he's only 3,600. So I'm just kind of taking dart throws at this position at this point. I mean, I'm almost inclined to just say all right, the Eagles don't really have any tight ends. I literally feel as confident in rostering Zach Ertz as I do Dallas Goedert. So I'd even consider throwing Goddard in there. He's only 3,200 and can definitely get some extra looks given the situation at receiver. So that's definitely something to also look at because he'll be on the field a ton because they like to run the two tight ends. That's why they run it. So they run that two tight end formation more than anyone in the league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see it. OJ Howard. I think you're chasing points again, guys. I just don't go back to that. I think maybe T.J. Hawkinson. You could throw at a dart too, but to me, I just feel like Waller is just the the best, the safest play. What about Dwelly, the guy that will be taking Kittle's spot?
I mean, he took
against Arizona.
It's true. I mean, he took his spot the other day. Didn't really, but yeah. I mean, he's 3,400 on DraftKings. What is he on FanDuel? Probably close to
4,900.
Yeah, it's like the same exact thing. $100 from the minimum. I mean, I've been taking tight ends against Arizona literally every single week all year. I mean, even OJ Howard got a touchdown against them. So, I mean, anything can happen. And he's cheap too. He's in that Dallas Goedert range. So,
yeah, I think maybe another couple guys you could throw at too. Noah Fant, he seems to have an uptick in his usage since Sanders has been out. I mean, last game going into the bye, he went 3 for 115 and a touchdown against Cleveland. So he's facing Minnesota, who's okay. They're not bad or great about it. I think he's decent, and I think Tyler Eifert in matchup also against the Oakland Raiders, who are going to be quite popular this week too. So let's move on to defense. And defense this week, I think, is a little weird because you got the Patriots that are facing a better offense. I just don't think this is probably the first time in the history of FanDuel that the Raiders have been 5,000 on FanDuel, like the highest priced defense. And then you got the Bills on the road against Miami. I think you could safely fade all three of those defenses. I don't mind the Vikings at 4,700. They're about as high up as I would go. But there's really not a lot of other defenses that are in great spots that you'd feel safe with going to. I mean, we say we like so much in that Carolina game, even that Carolina game defense is pretty good. So I don't know if you'd want to go to them. Everybody else, all the other home teams are just kind of in a weird spot. So I feel like defense going to be pretty much like the Vikings, and you're paying up just because there's not really much else. I mean, I guess you could throw something at the Redskins against the Jets because you got Sam Darnold on the road, and we know what Darnold can do on the road. So maybe the Redskins will be somewhat popular because you're paying down. They're only 4K. But that's about it. What do you think?
yeah, so DraftKings did this thing this year where they just throw up like a couple defenses that are under $2,000. So let's take a look at those first. And the first one that shows up is the Cardinals. And I mean, I saw Jimmy Garoppolo throw the ball to the other team a bunch of times last week, and most of the times they dropped them. So the stats didn't look nearly as bad as they could have. But I just I'm not crazy about Jimmy. So I think losing Emmanuel Sanders is going to hurt, and they don't have Kittle either. So you're going to give me the opportunity to pay like literally nothing for a defense that could maybe even get me like 10 points. Like if they got me 10 points at 1,500, I'd be ecstatic. So that's definitely somebody that I'm looking at over here. The other one that's under 2,000 is the Lions at 1,800, and that I can't really get on board with at all. The other ones that I'm looking at, the Redskins, obviously, they're only 2,800. And the other side of that with the Jets, I'm just not crazy about Dwayne Haskins at all. I don't think he's good or gonna be good, but I've been wrong about pretty much everything I've ever predicted ever. So that, and then I, I mean, if I'm going to be heavy on this Boston or this Texans Ravens game, then I'm probably going to have a little bit of exposure to the defenses just in case it goes a different way. But I play max entries on in the really low dollar tournaments, and then I make one kind of like handmade lineup that I enter into a bunch of different things. But in the big 150 entry GPPs, um, that's definitely somewhere that I might consider going. And then if I'm going to pay up, just like you, I think I'd go to the Vikings at 3,400. It's not really even paying up, but I think they're probably the safest play on defense on DraftKings. But again, 1,500, you really don't need to do anything to pay off value. I mean, that's just like a couple sacks and a couple turnovers, and they're good to go. So um, I don't think they'll score a touchdown or do anything crazy like that, but at 10, if they could get you 10 points at 1,500, I mean, that's a lock for your cash game. Not to say that they're a lock for your cash game, but I'm probably going to wind up locking them in because I usually just don't like thinking about a defense. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
On what defense are you talking about again? Which
Zona?
one? Oh, so you bring it up, and it's gonna be one of those games where they might be grinding it out. They might be running the ball more, and that's why maybe Deebo Samuel, I think, is gonna make a great play because they already said that Dante Pettis is out, and so or not out, but he's gonna get less looks, and then Kittle's out, and let's see who else, and then they also Sanders is out, so the route tree is gonna be Coleman, and it's gonna be Samuel, so. I don't mind it. I could see it. I could definitely see that game going under. And yeah, the Niners are 10 minus 10.5. So I feel like a division game, Arizona is going to keep it closer than that. So, but that's a good blend into our top three best bets of the week. So why don't we start it off? I'm going to start it off right now with my first bet, my best bet of the week. I'm going to throw it to you and you do one. My first bet, best bet of the week, guys, is going to be the New England Philly game over total of 46 or 45, wherever you're getting it. I think that game shoots out. What about you? Internet, what's your pick?
Yeah, that you kind of stole that one from me, so I think I have to pick another one. But I'll agree with you on that for sure. Um, That's definitely a game that I think is going to go over the. I don't know how the Eagles are going to stop the Patriots, even though their offense is really good. Um, I don't know how we're going to stop them. So, and I say we're because I'm obviously a Eagles fan. And mine, give you my first one. Wait a minute. All right, so I like the over in the Cincinnati game. Um, I think that Cincinnati will be able to score some points on the Raiders, and I think they'll just do the thing where they always put up random pass yards in the second half and score random points to backdoor cover and over and backdoor cover that 10.5, which I'm not gonna touch. But I think that game will probably go over.
Yeah. I am going to stay in that game. I'm going to take the Bengals and the points and 11.5 points, minus 11.5 against the Raiders.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't argue with you there. The next one, the Bears plus 6.5. I just think that, like I said last week, the Rams are really bad against teams with good pass rush, and the Bears have a pretty good pass rush. They can get after Jared Goff. What happens when Jared Goff is in trouble? Not throw the ball anywhere, and
Bad Jared Goff.
except to the other team. But I like the Bears at plus 6.
Right, all right. And then I'm gonna take the over in the Chiefs Chargers game on Monday night. I think that game shoots out in
That's 52.5. Yeah, that's cheating. And then, I mean, everyone could probably guess this one, but 51.5 for that Ravens game. I think it's gonna.
Yeah, it could be a classic. And I think that if Lamar Jackson wins again, now he beats Deshaun Watson. You know what I mean? Like, what else does the guy have to do? So, let's see if there's any questions in the chat. There's not many questions, I don't think. No, don't look like anything. All right, that's gonna do it for the Week 11 podcast. Let me make sure our producer is getting ready at the. He is. He's ready. All right, good. Go for my man Scribeezy. I'm Patio Joe, and there's our boy CK in the back. Says
Later.
Yeah.